The park was unusually quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that made Daisy's heart uneasy. The sun hung low, painting soft gold on the manicured lawns of Hanul Estate, one of Korea's most prestigious neighborhoods. She had just finished delivering groceries to a client and decided to take a shortcut through the estate's playground. The wind smelled of lilies and new money, but then she heard it, a small, broken sob. She froze. The sound was faint but sharp, like pain wrapped in a child's voice. Daisy followed it slowly, her brown locks swaying behind her. Her hands still smelled of ripe oranges from the fruit basket she carried. At the far end of the park, under a large cherry blossom tree, she saw him, a little Korean boy, maybe 7 years old, sitting on the grass. His knees were dirty, and his cheek had a red mark that looked suspiciously like a slap. He was holding a tablet, watching a video with trembling hands. The screen showed a clip of him and a woman, maybe his nanny, laughing together. But he wasn't laughing now. His shoulders shook as he cried quietly. At first, Daisy thought maybe he's just one of those spoiled rich kids. This was a rich estate. After all, children here cried when Wi-Fi dropped or toys broke. But something about the way he cried, helpless, broken, tired, made her stop walking. "Hey, little one," Daisy said softly, crouching beside him. "Are you okay?" The boy looked up, and for a moment, their eyes met, brown meeting dark hazel. There was fear in his, but also a strange spark of recognition, like he'd been waiting for her. Then suddenly, he dropped the tablet, stood, and ran into her arms. "Mummy, please help me," he sobbed, clutching her tightly. Daisy stiffened. "What did you just call me?" He only cried harder, his voice trembling. "The nanny. She hurts me. She said my daddy will never believe me." Daisy felt her chest tighten. She held the boy gently, brushing his hair back to see his cheek. The mark was real, fresh. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Min-jun," he whispered. She sighed, feeling anger bubbling beneath her calm tone. "Min-jun, where's your daddy?" "At work. Always at work." He sniffled. "He said the nanny takes care of me, but she doesn't. She locks me up. Sometimes. She brings bad people to our house." Daisy's lips parted slightly. She glanced around. The estate was too quiet. Expensive cars lined the street, and the air smelled like wealth and secrets. Before she could say more, a tall Korean woman appeared from the path. Flawless skin, designer outfit, holding her phone as if it was a mirror. "Min-jun," she barked in Korean, her tone sharp. "What are you doing here?" The boy shrank behind Daisy immediately. The woman smiled falsely, eyes scanning Daisy from head to toe. "Who are you? Why are you with him?" "I should be asking you that," Daisy replied, her voice calm but firm. "Why is this child out here alone, bruised and crying?" The nanny's fake smile faltered. "He fell. Kids fall all the time. You're misunderstanding." "Then why was he crying for help?" Daisy asked, standing now, still holding Min-jun's hand. "He said you hurt him." The woman's face hardened. "You don't know what you're talking about. I take care of this boy better than anyone. You're just, what, a grocery seller? Maybe looking for attention?" Daisy took a slow breath. She had dealt with arrogant people before, but something about this woman's coldness made her skin crawl. "You can insult me all you want," Daisy said evenly. "But if this child says you hurt him, then something's wrong. I'm not walking away." The nanny's phone buzzed. A text. She looked at it, her jaw tightening. Then she faked a sweet laugh. "You foreigners are all the same, always acting like heroes. I'll handle this. Leave." But Daisy didn't move. Instead, she noticed the tablet on the ground. She picked it up carefully. On the lock screen was a contact labeled Appa, Dad, with a photo of a man, sharp jawline, dark suit, emotionless eyes. He looked powerful, intimidating, the kind of man people didn't question. Something inside Daisy whispered, "Call him." So she did. The nanny's expression changed instantly. "What are you doing? You can't call him." The call connected before Daisy could answer. A deep voice came through the speaker, calm but heavy. "Hello, son." Daisy held the tablet to her ear. "Your son is hurt," she said, her tone cutting through the silence. "You need to come for him. Now." The line went dead. The nanny's face turned pale. What did you do? She hissed, eyes wide with panic. Daisy didn't flinch. I did what any decent human being would do. Within minutes, the sound of engines roared from the gate. Black cars, tinted windows, silent drivers in suits. The air grew tense. Minjun's little hand trembled in hers. Daisy's heart pounded, but she didn't move. She wasn't scared. She was furious. When the first car stopped, the door opened, and he stepped out. Tall, composed, dangerous in silence. His black suit fit like armor, his expression unreadable. He walked toward them slowly, his eyes locked on Daisy and the boy. The nanny immediately rushed forward, bowing. Sir, thank goodness you came. This woman. She tried to take Minjun. The words hung heavy in the air. Daisy turned her head, fire in her voice. That's a lie. I found your son crying and bruised. Maybe you should ask her why. The man's eyes shifted from Daisy to his son, and when he saw the red mark on Minjun's face, his jaw clenched. The air around him changed. Who touched you? He asked quietly. The boy pointed at the nanny. She did, Appa. She always does. The nanny froze. He's lying. The man didn't speak. He just turned to his men and said one word. Take her. As they dragged the screaming nanny away, Daisy stood still, heart racing. She hadn't meant to get involved in something this intense. But then she looked at the boy who clung to her hand, smiling weakly, and that's when she realized, for the first time, someone had listened to him. The park went completely silent after the nanny's screams faded. Even the wind seemed to pause. Daisy stood still, her grocery basket at her feet, wondering what exactly she had gotten herself into. The tall Korean man before her was no ordinary father. Everything about him radiated authority. His voice had the kind of power that made people obey without question. Take the boy home, he said in Korean to one of his men. Minjun clung tighter to Daisy's hand. No, Appa. I want to stay with her. The man stopped mid-step. His eyes, sharp, black, unreadable, flickered toward Daisy again. For a brief second, she saw something behind that cold expression. Confusion. He exhaled softly. Who are you? Daisy, she replied, meeting his gaze without blinking. I own the grocery shop down the hill. I was delivering to one of your neighbors when I found your son crying alone. Alone? His tone dropped lower, dangerous. Yes, Daisy said firmly. He was crying under that tree, saying his nanny hits him. You might be rich, sir, but your son is not okay. The bodyguards shifted uneasily. No one talked to their boss like that, but Daisy didn't care who he was. There was a bruise on a child's face, and that was all that mattered. The man's eyes darkened. Are you accusing me of neglect? I'm stating what I saw, she said. You can be offended later. Right now, your son needs comfort, not bodyguards. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He just stared at her, trying to read this bold foreign woman who wasn't afraid of him. Most people lowered their eyes when he looked at them, but she held his gaze, calm, grounded, fierce. Minjun tugged his sleeve. Appa, she helped me. Don't be mad. The man's jaw softened slightly. He nodded once to his driver. Bring the car. When he turned back to Daisy, he spoke with more control. You shouldn't have interfered. Things like this can be misunderstood. Then make sure there's nothing to misunderstand. She shot back. That child needs love, not luxury. He blinked slowly, almost amused by her courage. You speak as if you know my life. No, Daisy said, but I know pain when I see it. Even rich people bleed. Her words lingered in the air like smoke. He looked at her one last time, then walked away without replying. The cars followed him out of the park, leaving Daisy standing in the stillness. That night, in a mansion guarded by silence, Minjun refused to eat. He sat at the dining table, staring at his untouched rice. Where's Daisy? He asked softly. The housemaid bowed awkwardly. She's gone, young master. He shook his head. No, Appa should call her. In the next room, Jaemin, the feared Korean Mafia boss, sat at his glass desk, staring at security footage. Every camera in his home was clean, except one, the nanny's quarters. It had been disconnected for months. That small detail made his blood run cold. He replayed Daisy's words in his mind. Even rich people bleed. No one had ever dared talk to him that way. Yet she wasn't rude, just honest. For the first time in years, her voice echoed louder in his head than the chaos of his work. The following morning, Daisy was restocking her fruit shelves when she noticed a sleek black car parked outside her shop. "Oh no," she muttered. Not another rich customer with an attitude. But when the car door opened, her heart skipped. It was him, the same man from yesterday, tall, composed, wearing a simple white shirt this time. Without the suit, he looked less like a mafia boss and more like a man who hadn't slept well. He entered the shop quietly, his gaze scanning the colorful shelves of mangoes, oranges, and Korean pears. The other customers froze instantly. Everyone could tell this wasn't a normal man. Daisy straightened her apron, pretending not to care. "You're back for more trouble or just fruits?" His lips twitched, the closest thing he'd had to a smile in years. "Apologies. For yesterday," he said smoothly. "I didn't thank you properly." "You don't owe me thanks," she replied. "You owe it to your son." He nodded slightly. "I know. That's why I came. I installed new security." "You were right." Her brows lifted. "So you actually listened." "Not many people talk to me that way," he admitted quietly. "You must either be brave or foolish." "Maybe both," she said with a shrug. "I don't fear men in suits." The air thickened between them, filled with unspoken curiosity. For a brief second, his gaze softened. He noticed the small scar near her collarbone, the hint of coconut oil in her locks, the warmth in her eyes that reminded him of something he'd lost long ago. "I fired the nanny," he said finally, "and I hired a temporary one. But Minjun refuses to eat unless you visit." Daisy blinked, unsure how to respond. "Me? I'm not a nanny." "He doesn't need a nanny," Jaemin said quietly. "He needs someone he trusts, at least until he adjusts." She hesitated. "And you think that's me?" He met her eyes again. "He called you Mum. That's not something I can ignore." The room fell silent again, heavy but gentle. Daisy looked at him, realizing that beneath his expensive watch and sharp voice, there was a broken father trying to fix what he didn't know how to fix. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, I'll come. But not as an employee. I'll come for the boy. And if you ever let anyone hurt him again, I won't be quiet next time." His expression didn't change, but his eyes flickered with something rare. "Respect." "Deal," he said simply. "My driver will pick you at 10. As he left the shop, the little bell above the door jingled softly. Daisy watched him go, shaking her head. "What kind of man walks in like a storm and leaves like a secret?" she murmured under her breath. Outside, Jaemin stood by his car for a second longer than usual. His assistant opened the door, but he didn't enter immediately. "She's not like anyone I've met," he said, quietly, and from inside the shop, Daisy whispered the exact same thing. The black car pulled up in front of an enormous glass mansion that looked more like a private museum than a home. Daisy's reflection stared back at her from the tinted windows, neat braids, soft pink top, denim jeans, and her simple grocery apron folded neatly on her lap. She wasn't sure why her heart was beating fast. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was the memory of the little boy's tearful face calling her Mummy. The driver opened the door. "Ma'am, the boss is expecting you." "Boss?" The word still felt strange. When she stepped out, the first thing she noticed was how silent the mansion was. No laughter, no warmth. Just marble floors and expensive emptiness. "Welcome, Ms. Daisy," said one of the housekeepers, bowing slightly. "Young Master Minjun is in the living room." The staff looked stiff, afraid to make mistakes. Daisy nodded politely and followed the woman inside. The moment she stepped into the living room, a small figure came running from the couch. "Daisy!" Minjun threw his arms around her waist, his tiny body trembling with excitement. "You came," he squealed, smiling for the first time since she'd met him. Daisy chuckled softly, patting his hair. "Of course I did. I told you I would." He dragged her to the couch, showing her a pile of building blocks and a half-eaten apple. "Appa bought me new toys, but he doesn't know how to play." Daisy smiled. "Then we'll teach him, won't we?" As if on cue, A deep voice replied from behind. That might take time. She turned. Jaemin stood at the edge of the room. No suit this time. Just a black t-shirt and slacks. His presence still filled the space like gravity. But his eyes softened when he saw how brightly his son was smiling. I told you she'd come, Minjun said proudly. Yes, Jaemin replied quietly. You were right. He walked closer, every movement calm, deliberate. Daisy felt his gaze linger on her for a moment. Not in desire, but curiosity. Would you like something to drink? He asked, tone formal as ever. Water is fine, Daisy replied. I'm not here for fine tea and rich manners. I'm here for the boy. A faint smirk touched his lips. I expected that answer. They spent the next few minutes building a tower with Minjun. Daisy's laughter filled the room like sunlight, soft, unfiltered, warm. The boy's giggles followed, and for the first time in months, Jaemin didn't hear silence in his home. He heard life. Later that day, when Minjun fell asleep on the couch, Daisy noticed faint scars on his arm. Small but old. Her chest tightened. Those didn't come from one slap, did they? Jaemin's expression froze. He followed her gaze and sighed deeply. No. Daisy turned to him. How long has this been happening? He leaned against the window, staring outside. Too long. I trusted that woman completely. I thought money could buy peace of mind. It never does, Daisy said gently. Children don't remember how much you spend on them. They remember how you made them feel. He stayed silent for a while. My wife used to say things like that, he murmured. Daisy blinked. You're married. Was, he corrected softly. Her family didn't approve of me. Said my world was too dangerous. She left. I tried to move on. But his voice trailed off. Daisy didn't press. She saw the pain hiding behind his calm exterior. The loneliness, the guilt, the fear of failing as a father. You're not a bad man, she said quietly. Just a broken one trying to do right. He looked at her then, really looked. No one had spoken to him that way in years. Why do you care? He asked. Because the boy deserves better, Daisy replied simply. And because no child should grow up thinking love is loud only when it hurts. Something in his chest shifted, a crack in the walls he'd built around himself. That evening, Daisy cooked. The staff tried to stop her, insisting they'd handle it, but she smiled and rolled up her sleeves. Relax. Back home, we say love begins in the kitchen. The smell of sizzling garlic and stew filled the mansion. Jaemin stood by the counter, watching her chop vegetables like she owned the place. You're not afraid of anything, are you? He asked, amused. Fear wastes time, she said without looking up. Besides, I've seen worse than a grumpy boss. I'm not grumpy, he protested mildly. She glanced at him and smirked. You are, just in an expensive way. He chuckled, a quiet, unfamiliar sound. Daisy's eyes widened slightly. It was the first time she'd seen him smile. Minjun woke up to the smell of food and ran to the kitchen. Daisy, are you cooking? Yes, baby. Try this stew. He took a spoonful and his eyes lit up. It's so good. Appa, you have to try. Jaemin hesitated but gave in. The flavor was rich and warm, something that reminded him of simpler times. He swallowed, pretending not to like it too much. Not bad, he said. Not bad. Daisy raised an eyebrow. That's the best compliment your face can make? He coughed lightly, avoiding her gaze. Maybe I'll get used to it. She smiled. You'd better. After dinner, Daisy helped Minjun wash up and tucked him into bed. The boy held her hand and whispered, Don't go, please. She brushed his hair gently. I'll come back tomorrow. I promise. When she turned around, Jaemin was standing by the door, watching them. He sleeps faster when you're here, he said softly. That's because I don't shout orders, she replied. You should try it sometime. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You enjoy challenging me. Someone has to, she teased. They stood there in silence for a few seconds. Eyes locked, the air thick with something neither of them dared to name. Then Daisy picked up her bag. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Jaemin. He nodded slowly. Thank you, Ms. Daisy. But as she walked out, he whispered under his breath. Don't thank me. I should be thanking you. That night, Jaemin couldn't sleep. He watched the security footage again, this time not to find faults, but to replay the sound of laughter echoing through his mansion. And for the first time in years, he realized that home wasn't built with bricks. It was built with warmth, and a woman who wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. Morning came quietly to the glass mansion. Daisy arrived early, her basket of fresh groceries hanging on her arm. The gate guards already recognized her and opened without question, something that made her chuckle. Inside, the staff moved differently now. They smiled when she passed, whispered her name with respect. Even the cold marble floors felt a little warmer when her footsteps echoed through them. Min-jun came running down the hallway in his pajamas. Daisy! She laughed, catching him mid-run. My sunshine, did you sleep well? He nodded eagerly. I dreamed we were flying kites. Well, she said, tapping his nose. We might just make that dream real this weekend. A deep voice came from behind them. Flying kites? Indoors. Daisy turned to see Jaemin standing at the foot of the staircase. Neat, serious, but his usual coldness had softened. He was holding a mug of black coffee, hair slightly tousled like he hadn't slept much. Good morning, she said brightly. Morning, he replied. His eyes lingered a bit longer than usual. You're early. Some of us actually work for a living, she teased, earning a shy laugh from Min-jun. He smiled faintly. Touché. Later that morning, Daisy was in the kitchen restocking the pantry when she overheard two housemaids whispering. Did you hear what the nanny told security? One asked. They say she's telling people Daisy wants to kidnap the boy. Daisy froze mid-shelf. The words hit like cold water. She stepped out quietly and faced them. Who said that? The maids looked terrified. We didn't mean. It's okay. Daisy interrupted calmly. Just tell me. One whispered. The former nanny was at the estate gate earlier this morning, shouting that she has proof you're dangerous. She said you drugged Min-jun to make him sleep and stole his father's attention. Daisy clenched her jaw. Proof? The maid nodded nervously. She even showed the guards pictures, edited ones. Her chest tightened. It wasn't just slander. It was a trap. When Jaemin returned from a brief call, he found Daisy pacing the kitchen. What happened? He asked, instantly alert. She took a deep breath. Your former nanny is spreading lies about me, saying I drugged your son and want to kidnap him. His eyes darkened. What? She's doing it because she knows I caught her. People like her don't lose quietly. He put down his phone, face unreadable. I'll handle it. Daisy shook her head. No, Mr. Jaemin. This time, let me handle her. His brows arched. You? She crossed her arms, unbothered. Yes, I've dealt with worse than an angry woman with a Photoshop app. Despite the tension, he almost smiled. You're impossible. And you're welcome, she shot back before leaving the room. 2 hours later, Daisy found the ex-nanny outside the estate gates, arguing with security. Cameras hovered. She was live-streaming, pretending to be the victim. See this? The woman cried to the camera. This African woman came from nowhere and is using witchcraft to control my boss's son. The slap of words stopped when Daisy walked up. Calm, composed. Her voice carried quiet authority. You should stop before you embarrass yourself more. The woman sneered. You think he'll believe you over me? You're nothing here. Daisy smirked. Funny, because I'm the nothing who made his son smile again. That line silenced everyone. The guards tried to hide their smiles. Even the woman's camera hand wavered. Go home, Daisy said softly, before you lose the last ounce of dignity you have left. The nanny scoffed, but her voice cracked. He'll regret trusting you. Daisy turned, her tone still gentle. Maybe, but at least he's learning to trust again. And that's something you never taught him. That evening, when Jaemin came home, he found Daisy sitting outside with Min-jun under the garden lights. The boy was painting while she hummed an old Swahili lullaby. You handled it well, he said quietly, joining them. I told you, I don't run from noise, she replied without looking up. He studied her for a long time, the ease in her laughter, the glow in her eyes when she looked at his son. You know, he said slowly, You're doing more for him than I ever did. She smiled softly. You just forgot what love sounds like. Their eyes met. A silent connection passed between them. Something unspoken, delicate, dangerous. Minjun yawned and leaned on Daisy's arm. She brushed his hair gently until he dozed off. Jaemin watched, his heart tightening in a way he couldn't explain. You make everything look easy, he murmured. It's not, she said. But some people are worth the effort. For the first time, he didn't hide his smile. You're something else, Daisy. She stood, adjusting her apron. And you, Mr. Jaemin, are starting to sound human. He laughed quietly, shaking his head. Good night, Daisy. She walked away slowly, her locks swaying, her scent lingering like peace itself. And that night, when Jaemin tucked his son in, he whispered, maybe, just maybe, home is finally returning. The following days moved like slow honey, sweet, quiet, and dangerously comforting. Every morning, Daisy came to the mansion with a basket of fresh vegetables and a new kind of energy that made even the guards smile. She had turned the once silent house into a living home. Minjun followed her everywhere, his laughter echoing through the marble halls, his bruises now fading into nothing but faint memories. And Jaemin, he found himself watching her more often than he wanted to admit. That afternoon, Daisy was in the garden trimming mint leaves while Minjun chased butterflies nearby. Jaemin stood by the doorway, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up. He was supposed to be on a call, but instead he watched her. The way sunlight touched her locks, how her laugh seemed to chase away every shadow that had lived in that mansion. You're staring again, she said suddenly without turning around. He blinked. What? You heard me. She straightened, smiling. You look like a man trying to solve a math problem that doesn't need solving. He chuckled under his breath. You're difficult. Or maybe you're just not used to women who speak their minds, she teased, brushing her hands on her apron. He walked closer, lowering his voice. I'm used to people fearing me, not correcting me. She met his gaze without flinching. Then maybe that's why your world's so cold. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe even admiration. He stepped back, hiding a faint smile. You really don't know when to stop, do you? I do, she said softly. Just not when I see a lonely man pretending to be made of stone. The air between them thickened. For the first time, the silence wasn't awkward, it was charged, alive. Then Minjun's voice cut through, bright as ever. Appa, Daisy, look, I caught a butterfly. Daisy laughed, breaking the moment. See? That's the kind of peace money can't buy. Jaemin smiled faintly, watching them. A picture he never wanted to lose. That night, Jaemin couldn't focus on work. His men came in to brief him about a business deal gone wrong. Something about territory disputes in Busan, but his mind wandered back to the garden. To her. Sir, should we proceed with the cleanup? One of his lieutenants asked. He nodded absently. Handle it. Quietly. When they left, he leaned back in his chair, staring at his phone screen. Her number was saved as Daisy. Minjun's doing. Apparently. His thumb hovered over the call button, but he stopped. What would he even say? Thank you for making my son laugh? Thank you for making me feel again? He sighed, tossing the phone aside. Feelings were distractions, and distractions got people killed in his world. But when he finally went upstairs, Minjun was fast asleep, and Daisy was there, sitting beside his bed, softly humming a lullaby. Jaemin froze at the doorway, just listening. She didn't notice him until she turned. He had a nightmare, she whispered. I stayed until he fell asleep. He nodded slowly. Thank you. You always say that, she said quietly. But you never let anyone thank you back. Their eyes locked. The moonlight poured in through the glass walls, catching the edge of her locks and the tired peace in his face. He took a slow step closer. If I did, I might not stop. Her breath caught, but she looked away quickly. Don't say things you don't mean, Mr. Jaemin. You're still healing. He gave a faint smile. And what if you're part of that healing? She met his gaze again. Steady, warm, unreadable. Then heal slowly. I'm not going anywhere. For now. For now. The words lingered. The next morning, that fragile peace began to crack. A black envelope was left at the mansion gate. Inside were photos. Daisy walking out of the house. Daisy holding Minjun's hand. Daisy smiling beside Jaemin in the garden. But someone had edited the images to look different, twisted, like something romantic, scandalous, wrong. A note at the bottom read, "She's using you. Ask around who she really is." When Jaemin saw it, his blood ran cold. He knew exactly who was behind it, the ex-nanny or someone paid by her. But it planted a seed of doubt, and doubt was poison. That evening, Daisy noticed his silence. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," he said too quickly. "Liar," she said softly. "You've been cold all day." He looked at her. Those honest eyes, that calm strength, and guilt twisted inside him. "Sometimes," he said, "I forget that good people still exist." She tilted her head. "Then I'll remind you. Every day if I have to." For the first time in years, he smiled without restraint. "Careful, Daisy. You're starting to sound like someone I could fall for." She laughed lightly, but her eyes softened. "Then you'd better fall slowly, Mafia man. I'm not easy to love." And as they stood there in the golden dusk, two broken souls found something that felt dangerously close to peace. Unaware that someone out there was watching, ready to destroy it all. The storm didn't start with thunder. It began with whispers. By Monday morning, half the estate was buzzing with gossip. The photos had spread. Daisy laughing beside Jaemin, Daisy feeding Minjun, Daisy walking out of his mansion. The captions twisted everything. Rich mafia boss falls for grocery seller. African woman caught seducing employer. Is the nanny's replacement his new mistress? Screenshots flew across social media faster than wildfire. And like all lies, they burned faster than truth ever could. Daisy found out from the market women first. Daisy, they say you're dating a mafia boss," one said, laughing nervously. Another frowned. "Be careful, my sister. These rich men use women like shadows." Daisy froze, her basket of apples nearly slipping from her hands. "Where did you hear that?" she asked quietly. "Online. There are even photos." Her heart dropped. She pulled out her phone. And there they were. The same photos Jaemin had received. Only now the whole city could see them. When she arrived at the mansion, the guards avoided her gaze. Even the maids looked uncertain. Only Minjun ran up to her happily. "Daisy, look, I drew you and Appa together," he said proudly, holding up his drawing. The three of them under a big sun. Her throat tightened. "That's beautiful, baby." Jaemin appeared at the stairs, face unreadable. He looked exhausted, guarded, almost distant. "Mr. Jaemin," she said softly. "You saw the pictures, didn't you?" He didn't answer immediately. "Yes." "And you believed them?" He hesitated, and that silence hurt more than any insult. "You should have known better," she whispered. "You, of all people, should have known." "I didn't say I believed them," he said finally. "But the world does. And the world is dangerous, Daisy. For me, for my son, for you. So your solution is to push me away?" she asked bitterly. "After all this time?" He stepped closer. "You don't understand." "No," she cut him. You don't understand. I didn't walk into your life for clout or money. I walked in because a little boy needed love. And somehow, that scared you more than the mafia you deal with every day." Her voice trembled, but she didn't break. She placed her apron on the counter. "Maybe it's time I stop showing up where I'm not trusted." Then she turned and walked out, leaving behind silence thick enough to choke on. That night, Jaemin sat in his office with the lights off. Minjun had cried himself to sleep asking where Daisy went. The house felt empty again, colder than before she came. He opened the security footage one more time. Not the doctored ones, the real ones. And there it was. Daisy's laughter, her patience, her care. Not a trace of deceit. Just love. "Sir," one of his men said as he entered quietly. "We traced the leak. It came from the ex-nanny. She was paid by someone from your rival's camp." Jaemin's hands clenched. "They used my son. And Daisy." He stood abruptly. "Find her. Now." Meanwhile, Daisy sat on a park bench near the grocery store, tears slipping down her face. The city lights blurred as she scrolled through comments. Strangers calling her names, twisting her story. A voice behind her said quietly, "You shouldn't believe what you read online." She turned sharply, and there he was, Jaemin, dressed in black, eyes tired but soft. "You shouldn't be here," she said coldly. "You have a reputation to protect." He took a slow breath. "I came to protect something else." She crossed her arms. "What?" He stepped closer, rain starting to fall around them. "The truth. Now you care about the truth?" she asked, hurt cracking through her calm. "I always did," he said, voice breaking slightly. "I was just too scared to lose the only person who made this place feel like home again." Daisy stared at him, silent. The rain soaked her locks, her clothes, everything. But his words pierced deeper. He took another step forward, eyes pleading. "I know who did it. The lies, the photos. It's handled. But I need you to know. I never doubted your heart. Just didn't know how to deserve it." Her lips trembled. "You think saying that fixes everything?" "No," he said gently. "But it's a start." The thunder rolled. He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand fall. "Go home, Daisy," he whispered. "Not to me. Just safely." She looked at him one last time, then nodded faintly. "Good night, Mr. Jaemin." As she walked away, he watched her silhouette fade into the rain, realizing too late, some women aren't storms to survive. They're the calm you spend a lifetime searching for. That night, he didn't sleep. By dawn, he'd made a decision. He wasn't letting her walk away again. Daisy hadn't been back to the mansion for 3 days. 3 long days of silence, whispers, and stares whenever she walked through the market. Everywhere she went, she felt the weight of people's eyes. Curious, cruel, doubting. But she held her head high. That was the one thing her mother taught her before life got hard. Never let lies define you, child. Walk like truth lives in your bones. Still, some nights that truth hurt. Meanwhile, Jaemin's life had turned upside down. The ex-nanny had been arrested. His rival's plan had been exposed. But even after the media cleared Daisy's name, he couldn't rest. Because it wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about winning back the woman who made his son laugh again. The woman who smiled like sunlight and spoke like peace. He looked at Minjun sleeping that morning and whispered, "Appa needs to fix something important." Then he grabbed his car keys and drove off. The rain had started again. Light at first, then heavier. The kind that made the whole city look blurred and dreamy. Daisy was arranging oranges at her stall when she heard the screech of tires. A sleek black car stopped right in front of her stall. And then, like a scene out of a movie, Jaemin stepped out. People gasped. Phones came out. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Isn't that the man from the photos? What's he doing here?" Daisy froze. She wanted to hide, to run. But his eyes found hers, steady and unshaken, even under the rain. He walked straight to her stall. "Daisy," he said softly, his voice deep, trembling with emotion. She looked down. "You shouldn't be here. Haven't you caused enough?" He didn't let her finish. He raised his voice just enough for everyone to hear. "I came to apologize. Right here, where the world can see me." The market went silent. He continued, "This woman right here, she didn't seduce me. She saved me, saved my son, saved a house that forgot what laughter sounded like. And I let lies make me doubt her." Daisy's eyes widened. "Jaemin, no, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "For days I've been a coward, hiding behind pride, fear, and the name Mafia Boss. But the truth is, I'm just a man who fell in love with the most beautiful soul I've ever met." The rain poured harder, soaking them both. Daisy's lips trembled. "You don't have to say this." "Yes, I do." He stepped closer, his eyes soft but burning with sincerity. "I love you, Daisy. Not because of what you did for my son. Not because of how you look. But because of who you are, strong, gentle, stubborn, and real." He paused, then smiled slightly. "You walked into my chaos and made it feel like home." Tears slipped down Daisy's cheeks, mixing with the rain. She whispered, "You hurt me, Jaemin. You let me walk away." "I know," he said quietly. And I'll spend every day proving I'll never make that mistake again. He reached into his pocket, not for a ring, but for a single white rose, wet from the rain. He offered it to her, his voice breaking slightly. Daisy, would you let me start over? As a man, not a boss. Would you go out with me? Her heart thudded. The crowd held their breath. She took a slow step forward, her smile small but glowing. Only if you promise not to fire me for teasing you again. He laughed. The first real laugh she'd heard from him in weeks. Deal. She took the rose, and for the first time she didn't care who was watching. He pulled her into his arms, and the crowd around them clapped, some even wiping tears. Even the rain seemed to soften, as if blessing what the storm had finally cleansed. That night, Daisy sat with Jaemin and Minjun at the mansion's garden. The boy played with bubbles while Jaemin gently took Daisy's hand. No more hiding, he said softly. No more lies, she replied. He looked at her with warmth that melted every wall between them. Then it's settled, he said. Tomorrow, our first date. And as fireflies danced around them, Daisy smiled, the kind of smile that says home isn't a place. It's a person who finally chooses you back.
Hello besties! In this sweet story we learned that love is more than money and presence is more than gifts. Being a single parent isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. Sometimes the people we hire to help can't give our children what only love can. Trust carefully, listen to your child and never let success silence the sound of their heart. Besties, when love shows up unexpectedly, even from a stranger, don't push it away. It might be the healing you've both been praying for. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.